This is the 54th episode of the Effective Executive podcast and YouTube channel videos. And this week I have been ill. I mentioned that in the previous episode. You're going to notice a little change in my voice if you listen to me often. And I'm prepping for a visit to Disney. So I thought about doing something about Disney in this particular episode. So I decided to call those 4 lessons from Disney's decline. And some people may be saying, oh, decline, what's going on with Disney? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. The first lesson that I think any executive can get from, when I'll get into Disney's decline, is entropy. And it's just a natural deterioration of things that happens within an organization. People leave, processes change, things deteriorate over time unless they're kept up. So one of the things with regards to Disney is they're all about innovation and new things and buzz and being able to have guests be excited about coming to visit their particular theme park. And they have competition. They have Universal Studios. In fact, there's a YouTube channel under Poseidon Entertainment that's really been hitting Disney pretty hard about how they've been declining, which is where I got the idea of Disney's decline, although I've seen it myself, and how Universal is being more innovative and coming up with bigger ideas and things of that sort. So that's lesson number 1 is entropy. And with Poseidon Entertainment, Bob Chapek, who's the new CEO or relatively new CEO, has been in this gentleman's crosshairs, talking about things that he believes Chapek is doing wrong as the CEO of Disney. And so the second lesson is that a focus on costs increases costs. Now, I went to the Keys to the Kingdom tour maybe even almost 2 decades ago. And, there were 4 keys that are really fundamental to Disney. And they are safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. And 2 things stand out in my mind. One is that when we were going through the tour, they're talking about, do you ever notice how when you walk by stores, you can feel the air conditioning coming from the stores? And it was overly cool inside the stores, and you could feel that cool air coming through the doors, or often they were just open, coming to the outside. And that was one way of showing courtesy to guests, because it's hot, especially during the summer at Disney World. And one thing I've noticed over time is that's gone away. It's not as cool walking by those stores anymore. And so I've often wondered, are they focusing on reducing costs of air conditioning in order to compromise one of their fundamentals, their keys to Disney? But it's something that I've noticed since I went on that Keys to the Kingdom tour at Magic Kingdom. And another thing that stood out was of the 4 keys was show, which was that you were walking into a show and you could smell the popcorn when you walked into the Magic Kingdom. And so you knew you were walking to a theater and that you were entering a show. And over a period of time, that went away, the popcorn at the beginning. Now, it may be back now, but for a while there, it had disappeared. So those were a couple things that kind of stood out in my mind of, did they reduce those? Were these cost-cutting moves? What was the reasoning behind it? And so anyway, focusing on costs will increase costs of things because you're compromising that experience that customers are getting. So the third lesson that I get was innovation that you get from really knowing your customer. Now, you're not going to get innovation from your customers. They aren't going to ask for the next innovation. You have to come up with that as the person provisioning any service or any product. But it's improving that guest experience, and it's something that whenever I'd walk into Disney World, any of the theme parks, I'd always go, boy, only Disney would come up with this. It's so big. It's so, and this doesn't have to be the same for every company, but they're in a unique business, and you have to understand what the uniqueness of your business is too. But you know, it seems now that everything is kind of scaled back, and this may get back into the second lesson of focusing on costs. It will increase costs, but we're not getting the innovation that we used to see. Walt Disney. If you watch films about him, one of the first things you learn about him was his vision was so big that his brother, basically the financial guy, would try and size everything down, and Walt Disney wouldn't have anything to do with it. He said, you need to size up your thinking. And so his dream of building Disneyland came about because he wouldn't compromise on that dream. And, it never would have happened without Walt Disney's vision and saying, boy, this is something that is really not only big, but it is something that is needed in the marketplace. So innovation, very big. That's the third lesson. The fourth thing is don't copy. And in this Poseidon Entertainment videos that I watched, talked about how Disney is looking for ways to reduce costs in their organization. And so, again, lesson 2 comes into play a little bit. And in order to reduce costs, they did a lot of screens and projections because that reduced maintenance costs. And so Disney said, oh, well, that seems to work great for Universal Studios, so we'll do those types of things. So we get Mickey's Runaway Railway and to some degree Rise of the Resistance, which is, to me, some people were very excited about it. Me, it was an enhanced way of waiting in line. It just, kind of we walk through as a kind of a walking tour. I don't know. There were some neat things in it, but I wasn't like, wow. It was more like, meh, after going through it. So that's something I'd never really expected. I haven't been back to Universal for many years. I think the last time was probably, 13 years ago, maybe. And I liked it. It just didn't have the same flavor of what Disney World had, at least for what I was looking for. But now, after watching some of these videos, I'm thinking, well, maybe I ought to go back and see some of the things that they're doing and get a sense of what maybe true innovation looks like. But anyway, I wanted to cover those 4 things. I've been planning this trip to Disney World, and I do it every year at least once. My wife and I go for the Food and Wine Festival, and even that, it used to be a kind of a 2-month thing. Now it's a kind of like 5-month thing. So I don't know, too much of a good thing maybe. But each year we go back, and I think this is like our 15th year of going there, maybe even longer. We've done it consecutively, even COVID last year. We went ahead and went. But I'll be reporting back. We get back from the Food and Wine Festival, some of my observations. And I'll probably, in upcoming trips, I'll probably go back to Universal Studios and just kind of compare what's going on, because Poseidon Entertainment, which I'll put a link to down in the information below on the YouTube video, and then also on my website for this episode, and take a gander. It was interesting to me that there was a lot more criticism kind of coming out. And I don't know, maybe this person works for Universal Studios, but basically saying, Universal Studios is going to eat their lunch. But I have noticed a certain entropy. I've noticed that there seems to be more of a focus on costs at at Disney World. I've noticed that some of the innovation hasn't given me the wow factor that I used to get when I go there, and I wasn't aware of the copying, the potential copying going on, but I know that copying will always leave you behind. Once you start copying somebody else for whatever reason, you're never going to get ahead of anybody by copying what they do. You might be able to learn something from it, but your version needs to be better than what's what your competitor is coming up with. Just copying what they do, again, will always leave you behind. So I'll report back after we attend. It'll be a few weeks, but from the Food and Wine Festival, let you know if I have any additional thoughts since I had just been there once I go. That's it for this week.